Welcome to the Sacred Emergence podcast. I'm your host, Michelle Wong, and I'm so thrilled that you're here. This is a place where you'll be guided to living your most aligned life so that your truest, most radiant self can emerge. We'll be jamming on topics ranging from spirituality, entrepreneurship, to wellness and lifestyle design, and everything in between that can support you to grow, evolve, and shine, all the while not taking ourselves too seriously. So if you're ready to step into your leadership, break through limiting beliefs, own all of who you are, and expand in abundance, grab yourself your faith cup of tea and let's dive in. Hello. Welcome back to another episode of Sacred Emergence. It's Michelle Wong, and today's interview is with a beautiful friend of mine, Katherine Elizabeth, and her and I jammed on the topic of branding and her perspective on branding, and she has such a beautiful take on the power and the magic of branding. And so a little bit more about Katherine. Katherine is a soul expressionist for entrepreneurial women, creating brands that connect with and express the heart and soul of their work and message with the world. An artist, designer, writer, and web developer, Katherine also mentors her clients in the evolution of their brands and develop their own style of expression across various forms of media, from the socials and sales pages to branding and websites. So if you check out Katherine's website, or if you connect with her on the socials, you're going to see how incredible and intentional Katherine is and how beautiful her work is. So enjoy this conversation, enjoy this interview, and if this resonated with you, please share it, tag both Katherine and I in your social media and your stories, and we will share it back to the world. Without further ado, enjoy this episode. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Sacred Emergence. Today, I have a beautiful guest with us, Katherine Elizabeth, who is joining us by way of, not Portland, Salem, Oregon. And Katherine is a dear friend of mine. She is a soul expressionist for entrepreneurs. So we're going to talk about more of what that means. And we're also going to talk about new paradigm and branding. So Katherine, welcome to the podcast. I'm so excited that you're here.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. It's going to be so much fun.
Yeah. So we've been talking, we've talked a lot about branding and just like embodiment. So I love your perspective around branding and then your intentionality, because for you put so much thought into even how you express yourself and how you navigate in the world, and just like your bigger vision of what you want to bring in for clients as well.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I'd love to hear more. I mean, you've done branding and design work that's like your main part, but I feel like it's been evolving as you continue your work.
Yeah, absolutely. It has been. So, it's really interesting because I feel as though when I started this business or doing this branding work for clients and stuff, it was really with the idea of helping, clients through design and websites and stuff like that. And over the past year, I really was holding that with an open palm and looking at, is this staying? Am I going to stay in the design field? Am I staying in the branding field? And I realized I can't leave branding. Like it just keeps coming back. But what ended up happening was I started realizing that I wanted to shift the business model from being around design focused to actually really looking at the inner, deeper work that came up through doing the branding process that I was doing with my clients. Does that?
Yeah, I love
the question.
Yeah,
I can't remember
totally. Yeah, well, that's the thing. Like, I feel like we, even like outside of business, right? Like we all are a brand, but it can feel so businessy, like, oh, a brand. Like then we think about major corporations, right? But like as humans, like we all have energy. And so I just love how like, even if you're not a business, you can be a brand, but it's like what you said around helping clients, like there's just like a deeper inner work there. And I love how you even call yourself a soul expressionist, because it's that gets to express the brand. So Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
that's part of the, I know, like talking to you, it's like there's this deeper connection of, okay, it's not like design, I feel like is the after, but who's the brand? Like who are you? So how do you like guide people through that process?
Yeah. So what ends up happening is whenever, like, how I started, I should say, it's funny, I started thinking from a design background, branding was your graphics. And I just laugh at myself like, oh, you're cute at this point in time. Like how sweet that that's what you really thought that branding was. But, you know, I got to give myself credit where credit's due. I came from design. I was like, okay, well, all I saw of branding was the graphics. All people were talking about was the graphics. Whenever the CRM, systems or whatever, they're like, you can put your branding on it. And they're always just talking about your logo or your colors or something like that. And so it took me a little bit to realize, like, wait a second, there's so much more to branding than just the graphics. And that's when I really started diving deeper in, what people call brand strategy. But I think that what I'm talking about when I'm talking about brand strategy is purpose and whys and values and big ideas, like positioning, that kind of stuff. And I talk about it in a slightly different way than you might hear people talking about brand strategy, so to speak. Just because I really feel more into the energetics of it. So when I start working on branding with my clients, it really starts with going through these questions that I have. And it's not a linear process, even though I have a linear set of questions. We often go off and have, a whole session might be dedicated to one question. Like we asked one and then the conversation just went and we kept on digging and digging and digging, because that's the nature of the questions that I'm asking. I'm asking these questions to help bring up the stuff that is internal, to help us really to see what's underneath, what's inside, and it's coming out to be seen, to be shared. And kind of being able to look at it from all these different angles, from all these different perspectives, to really pull up what the core is, underneath it all. So that when we develop the branding, it's not just about, oh, well, this is the logo. It's this logo gets to hold the symbol, be an energetic anchor, so to speak, of all of this intention, all of this meaning, all of this energy that we really are tuning into, that we got really present with in the beginning.
That is so good. I love that you said like the logo is like the energetic anchor.
It is. It totally
No,
is.
that's so good. Yeah. And like you ask the best questions, like they're very thoughtful, intentional. And then not only do you ask it, like you, like the way that you process, I notice is like, not only do you like, you're very introspective with yourself, but it's not like, okay, answer the questions, I'm done. It's like, now I'm going to embody it. And that's like that's the piece that I feel like is missing for a lot of people. Like, okay, I journaled these questions. That was cool. Aha moment. And then, life. But it's like,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, what I found, when I'm going through this process, by opening it up to being really like, I can't tell you how long it's going to take us to go through these questions. Everyone's different. But because we open it up to hold that space for this process, it really gets to be something that they work through and like become like more fully embody it for themselves, right? We're able to first become more aware of what are these core beliefs, what are these core values, what is it that you stand for, and look at ways and like really sink into the embodiment of that, so that it's not that they're embodying some belief, they're embodying their beliefs and their values even more fully than before we started.
That's good. And like, I remember we were having a conversation and I'm just going to bring it up because I feel like in our business world today, like the embodiment piece sometimes has that disconnect. Like people aren't actually embodied. And so like
Right.
you were noticing that just like, wow, like there's like, I think with a brand, there's an image, right? But then there's the reality, and that if we don't embody it, there's a disconnect, and then it might not be as genuine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And it's like, I've been noticing for myself, I've been feeling swirly this week. I mentioned to you before we got on this call. Um, but I've been feeling really swirly this week because I feel as though there's so many layers to this work. It's a never ending journey. And I've been feeling called to go even deeper into it. Like there's more to be embodied. There's more there to be going through and to be present with. And so in that light, like what you were saying with the whole seeing the like others not embodying it as fully, it's just, I think that awareness has come because I'm feeling pulled to go even deeper, and I'm like, holy crap. And then I'm starting to see people, it's like, wait a second, you're like, and just noticing that not everyone is an embodiment of their brand, and I'm just like, there's a disconnect here, and I don't know if they realize that.
Yeah. And I feel like with the embodiment, like when I think of embodiment, I think of like there's an integration, right? There is returning back
Mm-hmm.
to the body, but the awareness piece that you just said is so important. Um, and I feel like until there's that, I don't know, like, because you said branding has that energetic, like it can ground, right? With the energy, especially with logos and even colors, I guess, and
Mm-hmm.
all of that. But like, I guess like when you take people, like what's that journey? Because like when we dig deeper, is it just the awareness? I'm like, oh, okay, I realize this about me, and then the
Mm.
branding will shift, like how to connect the work with the brand.
So the process is really a lot of times the same, but it always looks different for everyone because everyone's unique. But basically, I feel as though the branding, the graphics, the colors, the imagery, the way that we express ourselves is what grounds us. Like it helps ground us into who we are more, especially if we're really building like these personal brands, or like I see these logos, I see these brands being able to hold space for what our work in the world. It's creating this container where it's holding our vision, it's holding our truth, it's holding our beliefs, it's holding what we stand for, and we get to show up for that. It's helping to us to connect to that deeper part of ourselves that sometimes we forget is there, right? And that's what we really tune into with those questions. And so by bringing like then we bring it into the physical world through the brand, through the graphics, through the colors, so that these graphics, so to speak, really set that anchor. And it's not about like, I don't want to say it's not about, it's more about, it's connecting to who you are, I think, a lot of the time.
Yeah.
And like it just helps keep you connected to your core truth, your core whys, your core, like, this is what I'm here for, this is what I'm about, this is what I stand for, this is what I believe. So when we start feeling swirly in the world, in comparison or whatnot, we can come back to, this is who I am, this is what I stand for, and this is my place.
That is so good. Like as you were talking, I was thinking like even people who don't have a business can benefit from working with you. It's just like,
Yeah.
here's your personal, even if it's non-business, here's like a logo for you. So
Here's
like,
a logo.
yeah, like anytime you're kind of feeling off path, or you just like, momentarily forget who you are, that logo can just draw you back to yourself. I love that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we all have brands. It's so interesting because, and this, we talked about this in the beginning. I remember when I was doing a web development certification, I'm a full stack JavaScript developer as well, because I'm also a bit of a nerd. But I remember there's this one kid in my cohort and he had squeaky sneakers. And I'm like, that's not good for a personal brand. Like,
Squeaky sneakers.
he had squeaky sneakers when he walked. It was just like squeak, squeak, squeak. And I'm like, it's not just about your graphics, so to speak. It's about how you show up in the world, right? So in the online space, that comes through a lot in the graphics. when you're an entrepreneur and you're creating your own business, but it can come through in so many different ways. It can come through in how, like, what you put on your body, the clothes that you wear, what you smell like,
Mm-hmm.
And it's not just about a graphic, but it's about having this piece that helps anchor you into who you are, right? And that only can happen when you're clear and when you're aware. So it's really that conscious connection with your soul. That's what we really do in the beginning, and then we bring it into the manifestation of what that is, which is the expression. And in branding, that's graphics.
I love that. And so, like, the new paradigm of branding, yeah, it's like, when I've done, I think, branding work in the past, like, I think it does depend on, like, the person, but, like, your gift is, like, you're like, not only do you do the branding, you just share that you have, like, actual coding skills. And it's like, you know what I mean? It's like, you're almost like
so nerdy.
I love it. Nerds are hot, platonically. Oh my God. But, like, you know what I mean? It's like just knowing you and, like, your level of depth, it's like you can help someone just pull up their kind of, like what you said, their core, which is one of your names that you use in your programs. So I just feel like you bring people on such a beautiful journey. And sometimes I feel like in the business world, branding is like, I just need a good brand strategist where I can create a good design. But I love that your work is about taking it at the soul level, which often gets overlooked.
Yeah, that's something that I've really been present with this week while I've been all swirly, because what I was really feeling into and noticing for myself as I've been evolving a lot of my offerings lately, it's just noticing that I keep finding myself getting pulled back into the old paradigm mentality sometimes, which is looking at a brand as an asset, looking at the brand as, what can this do for me? Why does it make sense to do this? Having it as like a checklist of, like, some of the ideas behind branding could be, like, it helps establish a sense of trust, a sense of professionalism. Like, you can go through these marks and tick it off. And it creates an asset. You can sell brands, like, for oodles of money, but it's about more than just the brand. But the brand is an asset to the business a lot of times. But you look at all these reasons to have a brand, so to speak. And I know when I first started doing this work, I noticed that there were people who would hesitate and hold off on getting started with their work and sharing their work with the world, because they felt like they needed that professionalism, like, aspect to show up and to share what it is that they did. They needed permission, in a way, from this brand to show up, to be professional, like that they are. It was like that there's just this need for it. When really that was the Band-Aid. Like, the brand is the Band-Aid to an inner thing that's just working on visibility stuff and working on worth and value and recognizing that you're enough as you are, and that the brand is there to help support you. So what I've really been feeling into this week is, like, I cannot personally go into looking at brands from this level of, like, what are the benefits? What are these tangible, like, physical benefits that we keep on talking about? Because when I do that, it disconnects me from the soul aspect of the work. And it's the soul aspect that I think is the most rewarding. And because it's not about all that other stuff that I was talking about. It's about helping you to see yourself and feeling seen and feeling good about who you are. And when we make excuses for why we need a brand, so to speak, when we give it more tangible, asset-driven reasons, it disconnects us from the realization of, like, this is what a brand really is holding and the soul of what it can be. Because I really see brands as the soul of our business. It carries our soul. Like, the clients are the lifeblood. Brand is the soul. It's the whys. It's the purpose.
Oh, that is so good. Like clients are the lifeblood, but the brand is the soul because it encapsulates that energy.
Mhm.
That is so good. And so it's like, I feel like almost, well, not almost, it's just like if someone's starting their business, doing branding work at the level that you're talking about, that soul level deep dive, because that should be almost like the place to start because it's like
Right.
that digging in.
Yeah. I work with a lot of people, or I have worked with a lot of people in the past, like up until now, who are starting out. But there's also, it is really good for people who are starting out to dig in and to really just get clear. But there's also a level of, there's so much that shifts and change is in the beginning when you're just starting on your journey. And sometimes you need to just like go out there and start putting things, like throwing ideas at the wall. It's really about when you're ready to, when you feel pulled to a focus.
Mm.
I think that's when it's like, okay, let's really dive into this here. And a lot of times, we'll be able to uncover like this has been the focus, this has been the reason all along. It just has been manifesting in all these different ways through what you're doing. You're just finding your groove with it, right? But then also I've noticed that you know when we've been doing this work for a while, sometimes we can start feeling disconnected from the whys and disconnected from the business. And that's another stage at which it's like, okay, let's check back in. Where are we at? Why do we actually care? What is the soul now? Because our soul keeps on evolving.
That's really good. Especially, it's true because as an entrepreneur, it's easy to just kind of get complacent in a way. It's like, okay,
Mhm.
it's working. But then over time, what you said, there's that disconnect because like the soul or even the business both has evolved. And it's easy to just kind of, oh, that was comfortable and easy. The money's coming in, but that disconnect because the evolution is now ready, right? Like there's something here.
Mhm.
So I love that. And like with your work, I feel like there's that, okay, like let's look even deeper of getting more clear of aligning
Yeah.
back to like, okay, what wants to come through now or going deeper.
Yeah. I think it's really holding space for what is present now,
Mm.
not really like giving ourselves permission to hold an open palm, like I've said before, like what was, and just being like open to seeing what is now and seeing and just being able to connect the dots as to like, well, how was this here before? What was the manifestation of this before? This is so we can see the golden thread that just strings everything together, and we can see that evolution, and deepen it and really allow and bring that to the forefront. And sometimes that results in evolving the actual branding. Maybe it means evolving the brand colors, maybe it means doing a logo change, maybe it just means updating some copy, because our brands and what we do, it's an expression of who we are, you know and that's why I'm like, it's your soul expression, and that soul expression comes out in so many different ways. It's the offers that you're doing, it's you know the branding that you have, it's the way that you talk, it's everything. But if we just don't continually stay present with the evolution of that, as how we change, then the disconnect keeps on growing until things start breaking internally.
Mm. Mm. Yeah, and as you were like, I just know that when I'm unclear on something, it could feel
Mhm.
so fuzzy. But I know that like one of your gifts is that you're able to bring clarity because of
Yeah.
your questions and your inquiry. And it's like, oh my God, like everything makes sense now. Yeah, it's like,
Yep.
I feel like that's one of your geniuses with your work. And with the type of questions that you offer people, like I don't know if you can give a few, like I don't know if you can share a few of like the types of questions that you
Sure.
ask. Yeah, because I feel like it's that introspection of how you guide people. I don't know, it's just such a gift to be able to draw out that clarity within people, because it's like I know that when I get the clarity, I'm like, oh my God, everything just makes so much sense and like I can move forward. But until then, it's like I'm just like, what's that, treading in water.
Yeah. Yeah. Treading water. Yeah. Well, it's actually really funny that you asked that. And I will absolutely share a couple of questions with you. I just need to think of them. But like,
Not to put you on the spot.
Like, what are my questions? I can pull it up. But one of the things that I was really noticing even just yesterday was sometimes, we can't be as direct with the questions when we're really looking to get into that soul work. And I think that's one of the reasons why I have a gift for asking questions, is because I can feel that. It's like, okay, if I ask a question too directly, it's triggering us to go into our head to think about it, rather than like inviting us into our body and our heart space to like answer from who we are, like our hearts. And so sometimes I like to ask questions in a lateral manner. That's kind of like asking, so like one of the things that I'll ask is, what is it? I posted it on my Instagram the other day. What kind of world do you want to live in? Which for me really helps me to dive in to looking at just what kind of world I want to be in and what I want to be bringing to it. And how I want to be doing that work, and helps me to recognize what's most important to me. And it's not about like, and I will ask, like the direct question as well, but we have to also have those lateral questions in there that just kind of get us into our soul. Right. So another question I like to ask, I'm just trying, it's like right there on the tip of my tongue. I think I need to pull it up.
Yeah, it's like what I actually love about just how you work is like you're pretty hands-on with your clients. Like I know that when I ask, like when I'm given these types of questions, I'm like, I just need to talk about it with someone. Like for me to just sit down and like have it on my own, it's like sometimes it's like trying to pull teeth out. So I love that you also help walk clients through these questions.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing, is sometimes like I had a client that I went through these questions with just the other month, and I changed them a lot, because it's like, okay, this is what I want to ask, but sometimes I just feel into it and I'm like, I need to ask it this other way, and so it's really being able to read it, like feel into the energy of like, okay, well, what's going to like carry this conversation, carry this energy through, so that we can maintain this kind of here we are presence with ourselves and with our answers, and also be able to dive into the answer. Right. So like sometimes things will just like click to me, and it's like, there's something here that I want to dig into with you. And so we go on those deep dives, when that happens. And it's just this following those tugs, following those strings, that a lot of times people don't even realize what's in them until they hear themselves saying it, or until I've, with the questions that I ask, I often, write them down or invite them to write it down. And, just depending on how we're doing the work. And they're just like, I didn't know this was in me. And that's part of the seeing their own power, is realizing how big their idea is, how big their heart really is, in a way.
That's so good.
Thank you. Okay, I have some questions. Let's see here. Where are we at? Because I do have more direct questions. And then, so one of the other things that I like to ask is like, what like the biggest underlying shifts are that we help our clients with. Because I think that sometimes when we're trying to figure out like, well, what is it that we do? It's like, let's look at what we shift for people. Like when they're in our presence, what happens? And that can be another question. Like that's just right there, another way to ask the question. Why, like when people are in your presence, what happens? Like what shifts happen? It's not necessarily about what you're doing, it's who you are. And my experience a lot of times with my private clients is that everyone carries this beautiful lesson, just through who they be. And by just deepening and discovering and diving into who they be, I get to be a receiver of that energy, of that. And we go on this journey together in a way of uncovering who they are. And I get to receive the lessons, which feels a little bit like, whoops, like a side benefit in a way. But it's like the most amazing thing is some of the lessons that I've learned just through being in the presence of my clients, because that's what they're bringing. That's the power of their energy. And it's not about what we're talking about. I mean, it is, because we're diving into it, but it's not about them having to do anything. They're not having to coach me. No, we're just diving into this together and uncovering what's there. And we're able to really amplify that energy so that we're both feeling it.
That is so good. That is so good.
It really is. It's so fun.
So you've had, well, I kind of want to say this, but I kind of don't, because like sometimes I feel like when I share something like this, I don't mean it. It's not to discredit, because it's like, it's who you are. Mm-hmm. And I just feel like with human design, I just see your essence of your human design coming through.
I knew we were going to go there. I almost was like, maybe we should just put my human design profile in the bio.
So funny. We'll have people guess, but obviously, people who are listening and are well versed in human design, or at least enough, it's like you have a gift of being able to see into people, and that's all.
Are we leaving it there?
I love it. It's like it's just, it's who you are, and just and of course it's like, it's your work, right? It's like the questions that you've asked and like how you can guide people. Like that's huge, because I know for me, when I do any type of introspection, I'm always like, I don't know, are these answers even good? Like, what am I gonna, like, I've answered it, now what do I do with these with these answers? So I love that not only do you ask good questions, but you can like help with the answers. And what you're saying, I love what you said around like it's like the who they be. Mm-hmm. And you're able to like sense that, and then you benefit as you're guiding them.
Yeah, it's interesting, because I can't even put a name to what we like, specific things that we do. I know like the process that we go through, but I don't, the move from awareness to integration to embodiment of who you be is something that happens on an internal level. And I think it really is just holding the space for that to happen. Like, it's not something that you do, it's something that you allow. And I think that through these sessions that we have, we allow that to become the truth more. And the more present you are with that, even outside of the sessions, the faster the embodiment happens.
Can you say that again? The faster the embodiment. Sorry, you're like, what did I just say? That was
like, what did I just say?
All right,
just rewind 15 seconds.
Yes, exactly. Oh my goodness. Oh, that's so funny. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I just feel like your work is so unique, because it really is like the soul. It's like you're kind of like, the soul expressionist. I just love that. Love that name. Thank you. Yeah.
It's
okay.
Interesting, because like in all the swirls also lately, I've been sitting with like, well, who even wants this? It's like, we all have those thoughts, we all have those doubts, and yet then it's like, yeah, but I can't not do this, and I have to just trust that the people, like others, see the benefit of and want that connection, that inner connection to themselves and their soul, and to have that be expressed through how they're showing up, whether that is in their brand or their website or their copy or wherever. Because like the reason why I say it's like soul expression is it's not defined by one medium. It gets to come through in how in your writing, it gets to come through in your pictures, it gets to come through in your branding and design, and like your offers. All of these things are creative outlets of expression, and it's not just one way.
I just had an idea come through
Okay,
for you.
let's do it.
Well, I just feel like, yeah, the business, like entrepreneurs can so benefit from, obviously, right, from working with you. And then
Yeah.
people who are not entrepreneurs, but maybe, I don't know, whatever, right? Just like, I feel like your questions that you ask can really like just go so deep. And then you're also an artist. It's like based on
Mhm.
our work, I'm gonna create this beautiful art. Like my, it doesn't have to be like a painting, but it could be a collage. Like this is your essence. Like this is how I see you. And it can help like, oh, this is like artwork. It's like, you know what I mean? Like I can so see that.
That's an interesting idea. It's it's very interesting. I do like it. I'd have to sit with that for a little bit, because what I've noticed for myself is that when I started doing design work, it's interesting. I was very present with, how is this different from art? And how is
Mm.
design different from art? And the way I kind of defined it for myself was that art is there to, like, at the time I said start a conversation, but these days what I would say is, like, art is what, emotions look like or sound like or feel like, or obviously we feel emotions, but, like, this is what our feelings look like. This is what, our energy looks like and stuff. But, you know, so in a way it's there to help start a conversation, to, like, invite people into a conversation. Whereas design is meant to communicate a message. Like, literally all of the design tricks in the world are there to communicate a message.
You're just genius in how you're able to distinguish art, branding, and like just the purpose of them. Like, I love that.
Thank you. Yeah. So where I was going with that was, like, I really resisted like, what is the word I'm looking for?
Commodities,
Commoditizing,
commodity, yeah.
making
Commercializing.
art into a commercializing,
Yeah.
making art into a commodity,
Mm.
because it has to be something that's inspired for me. It has to come from within. Whereas I can do it with design, because we're here to communicate a message. So we do that deep dive, right? But then the expression, and the expression comes through in design, but when it comes to art, it's really an internal process
Oh, that is
for
so
me.
good. I love that. Ah, I just love like your ability to distinguish certain things because you've just like you sat with it and you really gave thought to it.
I keep swirling around this thing sometimes. Like, I think about it and I sit with it, because it's, I'm a nerdy person. The reason why I learned JavaScript, I think, at the time, was because of that. I just love to, like, dive deep into all the things. So when I'm like, I want to learn websites, like, I never use my JavaScript, developerness, because I just, I'm building it with the builders. But I was like, no, I need to learn how to do this, like, the whole way.
I love it.
Like, but yeah, where was I going with that? Yeah, the deep dives. I do the deep dives all the time. And then sometimes they come back up. And so then I go and sit with it again. And I'll be sitting with it on and off for weeks at a time sometimes.
Mm. Well, for people who want to learn more about working with you and evolving their brands and their soul alignment work, how can they learn more
Mhm.
about you?
Well, they can come to my website, which is under evolution right now. I have been evolving myself, but it's at IamKatherineElizabeth.com. And then that's the social handles essentially for Instagram and Facebook. And I may soon be on TikTok. We shall see.
Yeah, I am KatherineElizabeth.com and then the same handles for Facebook and IG.
Basically, we'll make sure it's linked in the
Yeah,
things below.
it'll be in
I
the
had to
show
make a
notes.
couple of little punctuation differences.
All
But
is good.
yes.
So check show notes. And thank you so much, Katherine. I just love the way you think and I love talking to you. So thank you for being on the show today.
Well, thank you so much for having me. This has been really wonderful. I appreciate it, because it's helped me to, like, witness myself in this work as well. in a way I haven't had the experience to in a while. So I appreciate that.
Yay. My pleasure. And for all of you listening, please check out Katherine's work, and I'll see you very soon. Bye. To help you feel more supported and nourished in your body and nervous system, you're invited to download the free I Am Supported meditation in the show notes. May you feel grounded in who you are as you become the fullest expression of yourself. Thank you for listening to the Sacred Emergence podcast. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss an episode, and thank you in advance for sharing with those who can benefit. Until next time.